because some of that material can go into a different product. So if you've got offcuts that might potentially go into, I don't know, a toy, so it might be toy grade material. It could be used as stuffing instead of then having to buy in the material. That would be an opportunity. So, but the problem is generally nobody knows who's got it, and it's usually in the wrong place. So, which is invariably what
waste
happens.
as a resource in the wrong place.
Yes, absolutely. Now, this is where potentially, if we all knew where it was, and we had a way of moving that material, the logistics, that would potentially support a lot of our waste targets and manufacturing opportunities.
Well, funnily enough, we have a gentleman who could tell us where it is, and it's up to everybody else to work out the logistics.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to that, the original impetus for Topolytics and why we call the platform Wastemap, because you can't divorce the geography of knowing where the material is generated as a waste, where those bins are, where those offcuts are, where those byproducts are, and then where it is then being moved to. From actually thinking about what could we do with it. So you need to understand what's there and what's happening to it and where it is. And then you can start to sort of build a business case for recovering that material, reusing that material. The idea of industrial symbiosis, as Colin's talked about there, where one company's waste is another company's raw material, but clearly the guys looking for the raw material need to know where that other stuff is, and then they need to work out how can they collect enough of it at an economically viable sort of cost, and then move it back into their production processes. The idea of a marketplace, so the idea of being able to sort of identify material, then a buyer can actually come in, and so there's a whole kind of range of different sort of interventions there, but it all starts with, number one, knowing what's there and how much of it is there. Number two, having trust in that data, because that's another sort of big challenge about really understanding what it is and how much of it there is and how good it is in terms of its quality and everything else. And I think, we started deliberately by looking at, if you like, the end of the pipe, so the stuff that is coming out of a sort of byproduct from a production process, for example. But also, if you're thinking about the stuff that is being kind of reused or in some way or refilled, refillable packaging, there is still a sort of challenge there to sort of, come back to Trevor's point about being able to report back to the customer on how many times that material has been reused. Because number one, that represents a sort of cost saving, but it's also an impact reduction as well in terms of carbon impact and landfill. So being able to measure that in an effective way, I think is really important to actually then encourage others to sort of start investing in the behavior change and maybe some processes that they need to change in order to be able to facilitate more reuse and recovery of that material.